Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond the Big Six podcast. Today, we're going to do an updated Premier League 1 to 20. We did this at the start of the season, and we're probably all incredibly wrong in our predictions. But we're going to do the same format this time. We've got the three of us on as well, which is nice. So, we're going to go through each team alphabetically, starting with AFC Bournemouth. because they technically are the first A. So, AFC Bournemouth, I'll start. I had them in 11th. I have them moving up to 7th in the Premier League. I was worried initially about them losing a lot of players, and I feel like the early signs, Niall, are that Bournemouth have dealt with that pretty well. I've been impressed with them this season. So, I've got them 7th. I've got them sort of chasing that, lucrative 5th place Champions League finish. Where do you have them?
Well, it's funny you say that because I have them a massive leap in mind because I did have them 9th and now I have them 5th. Wow. I think, to be honest with you, I think we just did Areola a lot of injustice, didn't we? I think that was because, as you say, they lost their players and we thought, then they're going to struggle to get back to them heights, and he's actually replaced them with better, arguably. So, I just think maybe just didn't give Areola the credit he probably deserves. So, yeah, I've shot them all the way up to 5th.
Tony, are you as confident as Niall? I mean, I've got them sort of in that European area.
Yeah, basically, I've moved them from 10th, where I had them, up to 6th. So, yeah, I definitely think they'll be in the mix for like European competition of some way, shape, or form. Absolutely.
Interesting. So we're all pretty high on Bournemouth then. I think I've got them 7th, you've got 6th, and you've got 5th. So there we are. We all seem to be in agreement with them. Arsenal, we'll not touch on too much. I had them winning the league, and I still do. Are you guys still set on where you had Arsenal?
So I've scored a massive own goal with them. So I had them 4th, and then now I've moved them up. They're still not winning the league. Like, I've got them 2nd, but I don't know why I put Arsenal 4th, but I did. And I'll hold my hands up. I'm wrong, but yeah, I've got them 2nd.
Tony,
I just moved them up one place. I've moved them from 3rd to 2nd. I don't say them in the league.
I think
same.
In the interest of just skipping through, so we're not talking about the big six too much, I think we should just give their places right now. So I've got Arsenal 1st. I had them 1st. I had Liverpool 2nd. I had them 2nd. I've got Man City 3rd. I had them 3rd. I had Chelsea 4th. I've still got them 4th. I had Manchester United in 13th. Now I had them in 9th, so I've got them being a little bit worse. And Tottenham, I had in 5th place on my current table, and I had them at 8th. So there we are. That's what I have for the big six. Now, what did you have, and what are you updated?
So I had Liverpool 1st, Chelsea 2nd, City 3rd, Arsenal 4th, Tottenham 5th, and Man United 7th. And that has changed to Liverpool. I've still got 1st. I know we're not going to go into detail, but I still think they'll win the league. I've got Arsenal 2nd, City 3rd, Chelsea 4th, Tottenham 6th, and Man United I've dropped all the way down to 9th.
Tony?
Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Chelsea. I've got Spurs down in 9th, and I've got Man United down in 12th.
Okay, how is that a big shift from where you were?
Yeah, I had Man United up in 8th. Chelsea's by they're pretty nigh on the same. The rest, Spurs, where did I have Spurs 7th? So yeah, they're roughly they dropped 2 places, but yeah, quite similar really. But yeah, Man United are the ones that have dropped quite significantly.
Yeah, I've actually put Man United. I said 6. Sorry, I had them 7th originally. I had Villa 6 originally. Man United 7th, and Man United dropped 9th. So sorry, I got.
Well, we're about to talk about Aston Villa now. So go on then. Tell us about Aston Villa now.
Yeah, so I had Aston Villa originally 6th, and I've dropped them all the way down to 11th. And I know that's a big drop. And don't get us wrong, I think Aston Villa could easily finish high in 11th, but it's just the fact that they just seem to be struggling for for goals. They're getting a lot better, but I still don't think they've got enough to break that top mold. So I've dropped them down to 11th.
4 wins in a row, to be fair to Aston Villa.
Yeah. Don't get us wrong. I like Aston Villa's team. I just think it's all gone a bit stale there, and they're doing a lot better than they have picked up. But I don't think they've got enough to break that top 6 this year.
Tony, how are you feeling about Villa?
So much like what you've just said, I think everyone kind of expected them to pick up. So I've dropped them a couple of positions. I had them in 5th, and I've dropped them down to 7th. But I still think they're going to be there or thereabouts where Europe's concerned.
Yeah, I had them in 6th at the start. I've dropped them down to 9th. Mainly just because there's other teams that I think have got a bit stronger and they I don't know, they've stagnated probably is the term. Next is, we've already done Bournemouth, so Brentford. So Brentford, I had in 18th to start the season. I have moved them up to 14th. So my thought process behind Brentford is that I just think there are worse teams than them. It's not so much that I'm massively sold on Brentford and think that they're fantastic now, but I think they're going to pick up home points. And I think that I need to see a bit more of them on the road, but I just think there's other clubs that are in worse straits right now.
You see, you were very down on them there the other week, saying, you didn't know if the home form was going to be enough. So that is a big shift. So
I think the
surprised
issue
by that.
is when you look at the rest of the league, I think I sort of came to the conclusion that there's quite a few teams that are in shambles right now. So I can't necessarily say, I mean, we'll talk obviously about the bottom 3s when we get there, but I just think they're better than the other teams down at the bottom of the league. But where you have them, Tony? What's your Brentford update?
So I had Brentford sitting in 16th, and I've got them actually to go down. I've got them in 19th. So I've gone the opposite way to you. So we've kind of switched sides, which is quite interesting.
A major disagreement, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to scrap?
I mean, it
You'd
wouldn't be
win.
much of one, would it, really?
I know, that's true. Niall, go on. You settled the debate on Brentford. Where have you got? Where did you have them? Where you got them?
I'm glad you didn't ask us to settle the debate on who wins in a fight between you two, because I don't think it's a debate. But anyway, I had Brentford relegated originally. Let's have a look. Yeah, so I had Brentford finishing second bottom, and I now have them. I put them 17th, so I've got them just surviving. And it was a toss-up between them and another team who we'll speak about later. And I just couldn't. I think one of these two teams, it could be either of them two, in my opinion. I just think this team, I think Brentford have more when it comes to scoring goals. They've got Thiago, they've got these players who look like they can score. This other team are relying on one man for me that isn't good enough. So we're going to talk.
You could be alluding to.
So I've got them just ahead now. I'm looking out my window for the pitchforks because I know they'll be coming this time tomorrow night. But
stay tuned. You don't know who it is.
But yeah, but I also think Leeds. I don't know if they've got money to spend, but they might, because they ran out of money for PSR wise, didn't they? But I could see them strengthening their team in January, and maybe we should do this again in January or February. But yeah, I've got Brentford to just pip this other team,
who you've already named as Leeds.
Oh yeah.
Fair enough. I think now I'm looking at it, maybe I'm high on Brentford compared to where I was. Maybe it shouldn't be as high as 4th, but there we are. You live and learn. Brighton, now this is the one that I think I'm going to have egg on my face on. So I had these 5th because I was going under the impression that they wouldn't be dropping stupid points all the time. And they have continued to drop stupid points all the time. They've beaten Man City and Chelsea this season. They've dropped points against Wolves. They've dropped points against Fulham. They've dropped points against other teams, probably. There, I can't remember. Yeah, so Brighton have not learned their lessons. I've dropped them from 5th to 11th. Niall, Brighton, how are you feeling?
That's a big drop. That yeah. So I had Brighton in at where did I have them? I had them in at 10th, and I've dropped them to 12th. They've just kind of sailing along, aren't they? They haven't set the world alight, and they haven't been terrible either. They're getting some big results, like beating Man City, but then they're also losing games where you think you should maybe getting wins or getting draws at home to Fulham, where you should maybe win in that game. So yeah, I just think they're steady on, and I think it was because of other teams' performances as to why I've dropped them. But I think they'll be there or there about mid-table anyway. Nowhere near danger, but I don't think they'll challenge Europe.
Tony, how are you feeling about Brighton?
It's the inconsistency in them. They can be world beaters on that day, and sometimes they just don't turn up. I had them in 9th, and I've dropped them down to 11th, the same as you, Connor. So, I didn't have as high hopes on them as what you did, but I did think they would be on the upper reaches of the table. I don't think that team's quite turned up yet. So, well, what remains of the season, let's see what happens. But let us see. I don't know. They're just so hitty-missy, aren't they?
Yeah, I hope that they don't finish 5th, because I'll feel really stupid, because that was of all the predictions I made this summer, that was my big bold one, was Brighton finishing 5th, and they honestly just let me down so much in the early doors of the season. Right, next up is Burnley. So I had Burnley 20th. I still maintain they'll finish bottom of the Premier League. I think that Burnley have got a couple of interesting games coming up that are going to tell us a lot about them. They've got Leeds to play, they've got Wolves to play. If they can come out of that with like 4 to 6 points, then maybe this is a different conversation. I feel like Burnley, though, are the only one of the newly promoted teams that are similar to the previous 6 that have just got relegated. I think they're like in games, they look okay, but they lack a little bit going forward. Defensively, their numbers are terrible. I mean, I know they've had a hard fixtures, but they've got really bad numbers defensively, underlying and actual. So I just don't think they're going to have enough, and I don't have massive trust in the manager, Scott Parker. So, yeah, the only thing I would say is they picked up 4 points from Sunderland and Forest, which are the only games you'd expect them to get points. So, yeah, I think these next 2 are going to be really big for them. Niall, Burnley, how are you feeling? They're getting relegated for you?
Yeah, so I had them in at 20th, and I've kept them at 20th. And just as what you say, I kind of feel harsh on them, because I kind of feel like everybody was talking about Sunderland and Leeds out of the promoted teams, and there's somehow because Sunderland and Leeds were doing all the business, Burnley kind of got left out. And
Burnley spent more than Leeds, by the way.
Did they actually spend more money? Did they? Well, I think Leeds brought in more players, though, didn't they? Because Burnley brought in a lot of players that already had in as loans, didn't they? And yeah, made them permanent. So yeah, I suppose. But well, again, that just proves my point even more, doesn't it? They've always been kind of left out of the conversation. But I don't know. As you say, I just don't trust Scott Parker with it. Although he is a lot more experienced this year, they have had a very hard fixture list. If you give Burnley Sunderland's fixture list, do they have 11 points like what Sunderland do? I don't know if they do. It's a very tough one. I don't know, but I just can't see them. I think Wolves have got more than them, to be honest. I think they've got better players. So I've put them bottom. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that they do better than that, as long as it's not at the cost of other teams. But I don't know. I do feel for them, because they're just a yo-yo team now, aren't they? When they were established, but I do think that they're the worst. They've certainly got the worst squad in the league, in my opinion.
Tony, how are you feeling about Burnley? You got any chance for them staying up, or are you bottom of the pile like us?
Yeah, much the same. Rock bottom. Yeah, don't hold up too much hope with them. Like you say, though, they still managed to stay in games. I think they're quite unfortunate against Man United early doors in the season, but just don't think they've got enough.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think the next 2 games are going to be big. If they get the points against Leeds and Wolves, then I think we're having a different conversation in the next international break. Next up is Crystal Palace, who I'm going to guess we probably all got moving quite a bit. I know I certainly have Crystal Palace moving. I had them 13th, and now have them all the way in 6th. I have bought into the hype, the Glasner hype. I am on it. Did lose before the international break, but I think they just look decent. They do have the issue of January where they could lose their best player if he is to move to Liverpool. So there is that. Maybe they will have a bit of squad upheaval, but I think provided they keep the manager, I think sixth, they for me currently look like the best team outside of Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, and Spurs. So there we are. That's why I've got them there. Tony, where do you have them?
So I had them in 14th, and I've bumped them up to 8th. I do think they're going to be in the upper reaches of the table, like you say. But I do think Gahey is going to be a big factor in that. If he does jump ship in January, that's a difficult player to replace. Mateta is another good player there who has been solid for them. So if they can keep the likes of them, but if Gahey does go, there was a bit of unrest with Glasner, so will that have a knock-on effect? Who knows?
Niall?
Yeah, big jump as well. I had them in 15th and I put them to 7th. I just think they're a really good team. I thought losing Eberechi Eze would affect them more than what it seemingly has. And I think if they had lost Gahey on deadline day, I really think that they wouldn't be anywhere near where they are now. But they were able to keep him, and fair play to him. He's not changed his game at all. He's still been superb, even though he had that disappointment on deadline day. So yeah, if as you have both said, if they lose him in January, it could be a problem. But I think they're going to have a really good year this year, and finally, moving from that mid-table where they've been for so long.
Niall, do you want to follow up with Everton?
Yeah, so Everton, I had, let's have a look. So I originally had Everton 11th, and now I've moved them up massively in the league to 10th. Jack Grealish has been superb for them. I think this is a good year for Everton in the sense that obviously they've got the new stadium. There's a lot of sort of good feeling there. David Moyes is, he just knows what he's doing at that football club. And yeah, I think it'll be a good year for them in the sense they won't have any worries about relegation. I don't think they'll challenge Europe, but I think they'll just have a solid season where they just enjoy having a new stadium, win some games of football. And yeah, 10th in the league.
Fair play. I had Everton in 16th. But when we made these predictions, Everton still had quite a bit to do in the transfer market. I don't think they had Jack Grealish and stuff at this point, so I would say that. 10th now, though, I think again, but much like what you said, Niall, I think they're good. They'll pick up a lot of points at home. Then they'll pick stuff up on the road. Don't think they're going to be anywhere near danger. And, if things bounce the right way for them, maybe they can sort of try and look to get in maybe the Europa Conference League or something like that. But yeah, 10th for me. Tony, are you feeling good about Everton?
I've kept them the same. I had them 13th and I've kept them 13th. I do think the teams around that mid-table point, there's like a lot of room for maneuverability there because there's a lot of teams that are of similar sort of stature for me at the moment. I've got them all grouped together, so I do think there's room for them to push up into the top half, but I've just got them sitting just outside the top half as things stand.
Fulham next, and I had Fulham 12th. I have left them in 12th. What I would say is I have a bit of concern for Fulham. I don't think they're going to get relegated, but I think that they're not necessarily going to have a great season. I think if we were to do this in a month's time, I'll be interested to see what I have them. But I've left them in 12th because I trust in the manager and I think they do have a decent squad, but I've not been massively impressed with them this season. Tony, how are you feeling about Fulham? Are you still got them sort of in mid-table like me, or you've got them moving anywhere further up or down?
So I've moved them up one place. I had them in 11th and I've put them into 10th. My only concern is in recent days I've been reading about Forest, who we'll talk about shortly. But I've been reading that they've a couple of their fans are saying, "Oh, we should get Marco Silva in." So, could that possibly be a thing? If that is a thing, then potentially Fulham's got problems. But I just see them as a solid mid-table side. So much like Everton, I think there's room for like manoeuvrability in there. I could quite easily see Everton swapping places with them. So yeah.
Yeah, 10's quite high for Fulham, I think. Niall, what do you have for Fulham?
I had them in the 13th, and I've kept them in 13th. I'm a bit like you. I don't know. It's a hard one. They could struggle. You could say that, but they're still picking up points at home. So yeah, I've said it so many times in this podcast, it's like a broken record, but I think with them, I think there is trouble coming to Fulham, but I don't think it's yet. I think they've got an aging team that'll come to an end, and they'll have to basically revamp virtually the whole team either next year or the year after. And I think that's going to be where they struggle. Other than that, I don't think they'll struggle this year. I could see them struggling, but I wouldn't bet on it, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I've got them at 13th. They've still got quality in there. Like Alex Iwobi and Pezzel, they're still quality. They're just maybe, not enough to lift them up the table.
Well, we've got your favourite team next, Leeds. So for me, I had Leeds 15th to start the season. I was pretty bullish on Leeds. I have dropped them. I've dropped them to 17th. I still think they'll stay up. And I've seen enough from them. And look, I know that you've got concerns about their goal scoring and maybe a few other issues within the squad. But I feel like their goal scoring has improved, certainly since the last international break. They have scored more goals. They got 3 at Wolves. They've scored 2 against Bournemouth. They got 1 against Tottenham last week. And I thought they were good against Tottenham last week as well. So I'm feeling all right on Leeds. I think they're going to be in a mighty scrap till the end of the season. I wouldn't be shocked if this goes right to the end, but I have Leeds in 17th. Tony, we'll go to you next. Where do you have them?
Leeds, I've got them sitting just above the relegation zone. I've got them. I had them in 18th, and I've got them in 17th. I've seen enough about them to say that they're going to scrap to stay up. But have we talked about Forest?
No, but alphabetically. N comes after L.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, of course.
Nottingham.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Nottingham Forest. Yeah, sure. Yeah,
brilliant. Now you better keep that in.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it in. You're looking bright red now, and we've got our own son on the podcast. Anyway, let's talk about Leeds. Go on. Right. Are you finished with Leeds, or you got more to say?
No. So yeah, I do think they've got a solid team outside of the strikers, but we have started to see them start to fire. Calvert-Lewin has had opportunities in front of goal. They look like they're creating more. Okafor's scored, so we're starting to see them actually, like the squad come together. So in terms of that, potentially, I just think they've got enough to stay up.
So, Niall, how are you feeling about Leeds?
Well, I had them in 16th, and as I said, I've dropped them to 18th. And the reason I've done it, I couldn't, to be honest, I can see them stopping up. I can see them finishing 17th and Brentford going down, like I said before. The reason why I went for Brentford over Leeds is I think Brentford have got more options up front scoring goals. I just think Leeds, at the minute, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I mean, you've got Enmaka, who, has he got enough in him? You've got Okafor, he might, but again, he's more of a winger. I don't know. I just don't think they've got that firepower up top enough to keep them in the Premier League. Now, what Leeds will do is at Ellen Road, they'll pick up points. Like when they beat Bournemouth, they were unlucky against Spurs. Sorry, they drew against Bournemouth, they were unlucky against Spurs. But I still don't think that they'll have enough goals in them to get over that line and stay up. Like I say, in January, I do think they've maxed out the PSO. I don't know what that's like in January. Leeds, I think, can attract big name players, like possibly more than what Brentford can in a sense. So it wouldn't surprise if they were able to bring in more firepower in January, which will propel them up. But with other teams who are in and around the relegation at the minute, if you look at Forest's forward line, West Ham's forward line, Sunderland's forward line, I know Sunderland need to promote as well, but they can change it up. They have, other strikers. Leeds, I don't see do. So that's the only reason I've got them in there. But yeah, I could be wrong, and I'll hold my hands up if I am. But like I said, unless something changes in January, I don't think they'll pick up enough to stay up.
Fair enough. It's all opinions, right? Newcastle United. I had 7th. I've now moved them down to 8th. And I just don't think Newcastle have like the same pizzazz as maybe they had last season. I don't know. I'm not being massively convinced with them when I've watched them. I'm not saying, obviously, I mean, I've still got them in 8th place. It's not like I'm saying that they're a bad team. But I just don't think that they look as good as they did last season. And, whether or not it's losing Isak, whether or not it's the fact that Vissa's injured, we've not seen him in there yet. I think Voltemada's been good since he's come in. That's been a big positive because I was worried about that signing. But I don't know. I'm just not massively sure that Newcastle will be able to replicate a top 5 finish again this season. And I think Champions League might have an impact. I think they'll probably want to go a bit deeper in that competition. How much of an impact will that have? Well, they did play midweek before the international break and won, and then won at the weekend. But they were playing against a team that also played in midweek. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they play midweek in the Champions League and then play a team that's had a week's rest. But yeah, I have Newcastle moving down 1 place. Niall, how are you feeling about Newcastle?
I had them 8th, and I'm keeping them 8th. I agree. The thing with Newcastle is that they're streaky, but the reason why that gets overlooked is because their good streaks are longer than their bad streaks. So I fully expect Newcastle at some point in the near future to go on a 7, 8, 9 game winning streak, because that's what they seem to do, and it seems to propel them up the league. The only problem with that this season is I don't think they'll have the same effect as it did last year, or not the year before, but the year before that when they got the Champions League, because of the fact they're already in the Champions League. And as you say, is their squad deep enough? I know we touched last time with the way they play football, the high intensity. It's quite hard for them to keep everyone fit, and they're already getting injuries here and there as well. So it is difficult the way they play. Voltemada, as you say, he's scoring goals. I think he scored 3 or 4 in all competitions, I think, for Newcastle. So, that's obviously a big plus for them. I still don't think he'll get as many as Isak. And as you say, that the first half against Nottingham Forest was, neither side could get up for it. And I just think that was to do with the fact that both played midweek. And, if Newcastle had come up against a team who had a week off, he might have seen something a bit different there. So, yeah, I don't think that they'll get to that point. But they can spend in January. They have got money to spend. They might strengthen in depth, and that'll push them up. And I fully believe in Eddie Howe and what he does at that football club. And I think, like I say, he's good, lasts longer than he's bad always. So, yeah, I still don't think we've seen the real Newcastle yet this year, though. It's been strange. They've had a lot of 0-0 draws, which is unlike them. The Union St. Gilloise game, no disrespect to them, but they're obviously not. They're not up to much, really. 4-0 away from home in Champions League is a great result, but they're not up to much. And then Forest weren't really up to much, and the only other win was Wolves. So it's quite hard to kind of see where they are. But like I say, I fully expect them to start winning and climbing up the table. But I don't think it'll be enough to get them anywhere near sort of top 4 this year.
Yeah, dull is probably the word I'd use to describe Newcastle, and that's up playing against Liverpool with 10 men when they were fantastically exciting. Tony, how are you feeling about Newcastle?
So I had them in 6th, and I've actually moved them up to 5th. So yes, a lot of what Niall said there just now. In terms of injuries, we're yet to see Wissa in the team, and I think he's a proven Premier League goal scorer. So I do think we've got goals to come into the side. Voltemada has came into the squad and he's hit the ground running. He's looked good from what I've seen, but he's a very, very different player to he who shall not be named. He's
Isak, that is, for everyone else. I can say his name.
Yeah, I can't. But yeah, so we're having to adapt our game to fit that mold now, and it's a lot different to what was played last season. So, and then, like you say, with injuries, with Hall still on the sidelines and Tino Livramento getting injured at there, I think that they're big blows for the coming weeks. And Brighton always seems to be a bit of a bogey team. You know, traveling to Brighton, the Amex, it always seems to be problematic for Newcastle. So yeah, it remains to be seen. But I do still think they'll be in the conversation for Europe come the end of the season. And like you say, in January, if they need to strengthen, they can.
Fair enough. That is fine. I mean, you could do a Moody Army if you're playing Brighton. Get yourself a good goal there. Right, Nottingham Forest, Tony, just after F, with your alphabet. This is a really, really interesting one for me because I hummed and hawed about Nottingham Forest. I had them in 10th. And I think in a season like this, where I believe two newly promoted teams are going to stay up, I think teams who are in chaos are going to be susceptible to relegation. And I've dropped Forest into 18th. I just think there's a lot of chaos there. They've got an owner that is chaos. And he's both of it.
It's a big call.
It is a big call.
Big call.
But I think there's reason for it. I think that the appointment of Ange Postecoglou, to me, suggests a club that has no idea what it's doing. They've went from a pragmatic Nuno who was counter-attacking football, and he got the players like Milenkovic, who are good box defenders, good headers and kickers, playing in a way that made them look like world beaters. Then they brought in Ange Postecoglou, who likes to sit his team on the halfway line. Players like Milenkovic are going to struggle. Players like Hudson-Odoi are going to struggle. Players like Chris Wood are probably going to struggle as well. This team isn't designed to play this way of football, and they've brought in Edu as the new sporting director. And the fact is he clearly thinks that this Nottingham Forest team needs to evolve into being a front-footing, really, really high-pressing team that parks itself in the opposition half, and it's not a team designed to do this. So even if they sacked Ange Postecoglou and brought in another manager, my opinion is that they will continue to go for progressive football, and this team isn't designed for progressive football. So I think Nottingham Forest are the chaos club of the season. They're going to get relegated because of bad ownership and bad behind-the-scenes stuff. Nothing to do with the players who are excellent. They've got a really, really good squad. I just think they are a chaos club right now. So I have them dropping into 18th. Maybe I'll look like an idiot in a month's time. I don't like the look of their fixtures coming up either, which is only going to make the problems worse. Anyway, who's in the biggest disagreement there? Tony's pulling all sorts of faces. So I'll go to him. Go on, tell us why I'm wrong. Where you got Forest?
So I had them in 12th and I knocked them down to 14th. I didn't kind of see the implosion that you did, but I do think they've got enough about them to stay up. Not a conversation I thought I would be having, if I'm honest. But yeah, they have fundamentally shifted from what they had to where they are. But I do think Ange's probably not last, and they'll get somebody in who's actually looks at the squad and goes, actually, we can't play this way. We'll go back to what, or we'll adapt to what we have, and we'll do that. I.e., the Forest fans saying Marco Silva, he's a very pragmatic, sensible manager. He's not like, I will play this way, and you definitely have to play this way, like Andrews. So yeah, I don't quite see the implosion that you do, but hey, I could be wrong.
Interesting. Niall, are you what would be the word?
I've dropped them down. I had them in 12th, and I've dropped them to 15th. I know what you're saying with the turmoil, and we have seen very good teams in the past go down when things haven't been quite right. But they're too good. They're far too good. I know they've got Europe as well, which will hinder them. But you're talking about a team with Callum Hudson-Odoi, Morgan Gibbs-White. They've got Igor Jesus coming off the bench. They've got quality. They've got Elliott Anderson, who, by the way, is one of the. Sorry, my telly's just ran me in on that. Who's, by the way, is just one of the sort of best midfield players in the Premier League at the moment as well. So I'm sorry, I just can't see that team getting relegated, even if they keep Ange, which I don't think they will, because they're already talking about Sean Dyche and stuff. But even if they keep Ange, they're still far too good to go down. A bit like what Tottenham were last year, how bad Ange was there. They were still far too good to go down. So yeah, they've got far too much quality. I cannot see them going. I mean, I could be wrong, as Ant said, but it's a big call, Connor, and I respect you for it, but it's not for me.
How many teams have 3 managers in a season and stay up?
Well, I mean, the thing is, sorry to say this, Ant, but there's comparisons to the year Newcastle went down. They were similar. They had, was it 3 managers in that season? Rafa Benitez and all came in late. I can't remember who was it. McLaren.
It was McLaren, wasn't it?
Yeah, McLaren.
Yeah.
So yeah, in Newcastle's team was ridiculous when it went down that year. So I've seen it before. It can happen, but I just think Forest have got far too much. I think they've had a bad start, and I think it's all gone a bit wrong with Marinakis. But I just there's no way they're going to go down with that much quality. Sure,
The lost like Newcastle's picked up Ross Wilson as well as the director of football as well. I know you mentioned about Edu there. So is that a change in tact? Is that a change in dynamic at the top? Are they going to bring somebody else in to fill that gap, or are they changing their model? Or so there's a lot of questions at the top, as well as manager. I spoke to a few Forest fans coming out of the ground there the other week, and I was saying, do you think he's going to be there on Monday? And they were like, I don't know. He might get the international break. He might get a couple of games, but it remains to be seen. But I like Niall says, I just think they've got too much about them to go down.
Fair enough. I see a snowballing effect. I look at the fixtures coming up. Chelsea at home, hard. Then they've got to play FC Porto. Then they play Bournemouth away, hard. They've then got Man United at home, which they'll probably look at as a win. Then they play away in Europe. Then they play Leeds at home in a massive game, but they've played away in Europe. Then they've got Liverpool away. Then they've got Brighton. There's just I can't see them picking up tons of points. I think just the way things are going right now. But there you are. Anyway, I have them in 18th place. I think Forest are in deep doo-doo. Sunderland. So I had Sunderland 19th to start the season. And again, the context before the season starts is obviously you don't finish all your business day. So Sunderland at that point did not have any centre-back signed, and they were lined up with Jensen Seelt, who was barely played in the Championship. Now Sunderland have centre-backs that look defensively strong. I've got them up in 15th place. No team's ever been relegated with 11 points from 7 games before. So I have every faith in the world that Sunderland can find a way and survive this season. Niall, how are you feeling about Sunderland?
So yeah, I had Sunderland in 17th, and I moved them up 1 place to 16th. And I think sometimes little stats like you've said, like no team's ever been relegated that amount of points at this stage, sort of thing, probably do talk to you a bit too much. Like, I've seen Sunderland finish on a points total that's only 4 points higher than what they have now in the Premier League. So you put it in that terms and you think, of course they're going to stay about. But things can change. Injuries can happen. Obviously, when the AFCON comes in, Sunderland are going to lose a few key players as well. I don't think that's a big enough thing as what the media are making it out. I still think Sunderland have got depth. But I just think there's worse teams, which is why I've got them in 16th. I think Sunderland, like the game against Nottingham Forest 2 weeks ago, they'll pick up those types of results away from home every now and again. And I think that home form will be enough in itself, because they're still unbeaten at home. I think it's 2 wins and a draw at home so far this season. They've got a huge game coming up against Wolves, which can see them go 12 points clear of Wolves and 12 points clear of another team at this stage of the season for a newly promoted team is massive. And yeah, I just don't think, if they don't get massively hit with injuries, I mean, if Granit Xhaka gets injured, it could be a huge problem for Sunderland. And there is that fine line because I don't think you have the quality and depth in his position, but you do in other positions. I think it'll help them having Ronaldo coming back because he's been fantastic, and Masuaku I just don't think's up to scratch yet. So yeah, I do think there's that. I know there's Diaby is injured. Diarra, sorry, is injured. And I know that he'll come back in the next month or so, hopefully. Noah Siddiqui, there's rumours that he's picked up a little knock, but I don't think it's anything too serious by the looks of it. So if they can keep their squad relatively fit, I think Sunderland, you're looking at about 16th place for me.
Tony, how you feel about Sunderland?
So a bit more positive, if I'm honest. I had them to be relegated in 19th place, but I've got them jumping up 3 spaces up to 16th. What I've seen so far of Sunderland this season, I've been impressed with. I think the business that they've done is very smart. They look a very solid side, much like what Niall said there before. I think they will rely heavily on their home results, but they've gotten the odd win away. So I think they've got enough about them to stay up.
Fair enough. Okay, West Ham next, and I had West Ham 17th. I have them 16th now. I think that Nuno coming in there will be a bit of a game changer for them. I think they'll find a way to pick up enough points to just about keep their head above water. But I do think they're in serious trouble. I don't think that they're going to be safe until right towards the end of the season, and I'm not convinced that they aren't just, if they stay up this year, just delaying the inevitable. I really feel like they are circling the drain now, a little bit like Wolves, who we will talk about next. But I think West Ham are heading towards the end of their 12-year run in the Premier League. But yeah, I've got them staying up just. Niall, West Ham.
Yeah, I had them 14th at the start, and I've kept them 14th. And you asked us this a few weeks ago. It would have been a hard one because we all knew at some point that managerial change was coming. It was just when it was coming. They made it fairly quickly. I really like Nuno. I think he's a very good manager for the Premier League. He's, proofs in the pudding with him. He's always seemed to succeed in the Premier League. So yeah, I don't think they'll go down. I think they'll get a run of form. I think they'll push up in there. I think they'll finish 14th. I mean, as you say though, they are in trouble. But I just trust their manager and the squad as well. They've still got a very good squad. They've got great players in that team if you can get them firing. So yeah, we can see what happens with them. But yeah, I've got them 14th.
Tony, you got West Ham going down. You think they'll be all right?
I've kept them in the same position that I had them. I had them in 15th, and they've stayed 15th for me. I think the appointment of Nuno is what's going to be the difference here. My only concern with West Ham really is that strike department. They've got a lot of aging players in there, in Fulkrug and Wilson. Is that going to be enough for them? I know Wilson, when he's fit, is a goal scorer. Fulkrug came from Dortmund and he did really well, but I don't know potentially if that's enough. But they've got the likes of Crescencio, Somerville, and Paqueta chipping in with goals. So, and Bowen for that matter, they've got goals elsewhere in the team. So potentially that's going to be the difference for them. But that would be my only question marks.
Yeah, I'll probably agree with that there. Wolves, last team to finish off. I had them in 14th to start, and
I remember it.
I feel like I was maybe a little bit too confident on them. Now, what I would say with Wolves is that they actually have double the points than what they had this time last season. So there we are. There is progress there. They had 1 point after 7 games last season. They've now got 2. But I have them 19th. I think they've got a big few games coming up. They've got to play Sunderland, they've got to play Burnley, and they've got to play Fulham in the next 3. And I feel like they have to pick up like at least 6 points from those 3 games to at least give themselves a chance. They've got some good home games as well before Christmas, which is going to be big for them as well. But I don't know. I don't believe in this Wolves team. I also don't know if they'll make a managerial change, and I don't even know if a managerial change would fix them. I think Pereira is probably the best manager that they could get for that team right now. So I'm not massively convinced on Wolves. I think they're probably going to go down. Tony, Wolves relegated?
Yes, I've swapped them from 17th to 18th. So yeah, much like yourself, I have my significant doubts about Wolves and their capability to stay in the league. They have got some good players, but we certainly haven't seen anywhere near enough from them as of yet. So they need to start showing up, or else, that gap between the rest of the league and them is only going to get bigger.
Niall, Wolves relegated?
Yeah, I've got them in at 19th. I think I had them 18th, so I dropped them down a place. Basically, I just think that they're not better than anybody else other than Burnley. On paper, they could be though, and that could change around. I know you said there about the managerial change. I don't think they'll make that. They've given him a new contract. I'd be surprised if they make that change. Not unless, I mean, they're losing every week, then they might have to. But even if they do, as you say, who are they going to bring in? Sean Dyche to see fit Wolves, maybe, and maybe that could work possibly. But yeah, I'm not sure. The thing is, they have still got Strand Larson. They have still got, I forgot his name, the new striker they signed. He's a unit. They could start firing. Things could start changing.
Calamundo, is it? Or is that Forest? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Forest.
It begins with a T. Is it?
Yeah, the guy at Wolves,
Yes,
I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try.
Yeah.
The better
Yeah, he's a machine. I think they signed him from, was it Genk or Anderlecht?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was Genk.
He looked a good player. Yeah.
So that's the thing. So they've got these players, and to be honest, against Spurs, I actually thought they played really well, and they were very unlucky not to win that game. And against Brighton, if Joe's not a bad result at home, I would say Brighton probably did deserve to win the game. They were the better side throughout, but they still got a draw there. So things are turning. They're unbeaten in 2, and they've got 2 massive games coming up against Sunderland, and I think is it Sunderland and Burnley next 2 for them? Huge, absolutely huge.
And then Fulham.
And then Fulham, as you said, yeah. So absolutely huge. So, well, it could all change in a few weeks, but at the minute, I don't think they've got enough, and I've got them in at 19th.
Yeah, that's fair. Just as a sort of before we finish off, I think I'll look at the relegation scrap, and I think there's 7 teams vying for it. I don't know if you would agree with this, but Brentford, Sunderland, West Ham, Leeds, Forest, Wolves, Burnley, I think they are the teams. You can maybe add Fulham into them, but I think they're the teams that are going to be scrapping from now to the end of the season.
I wouldn't go with Forest personally, but that's just me.
Where do you have Forest? You had them like 14th or something, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be. I think there's. I did have them at 14th, but I don't think they'll be scrapping for relegation.
So who do you think scrapping them? So you think that there's?
I think there possibly be a gap between 14th and 15th. I do think that.
So who's your 6th then? Is your 6th the other 6 other than the one?
He's putting you on the spot, yeah, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's grilling you. Grilling
really?
you.
I'm just trying
to work out where
he's. I'm just trying to work out where he's at with it. Whether or not,
Well, I'd say his 6. I'll tell you who his 6 are. I'd say his 6 are Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Leeds, Sunderland, West Ham.
Yeah.
That's his 6.
Is that your 6?
Yeah, that's his 6.
Is that your 6?
No, my 6 is... My 6 would be Burnley, Wolves, Leeds, Brentford, Sunderland, and Forest.
Oh, so you don't think West Ham?
Well, I'm just going off what me bottom 6.
Oh, okay. So you got West Ham above that?
Yeah, 14th, but I think West Ham are in it as well.
Interesting. Oh, okay. So you're pretty much in agreement with me then, other than the fact that I've got Forest in 18th and you don't think they'll go down.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think even Fulham, I could say, could possibly be. So you're talking my 7 from 13th downwards. Any of them teams going down wouldn't surprise us. Any of the teams above it would surprise us.
Yeah.
There is a few shining lights this year, though. Like, I think we haven't really touched much on Jadon Anthony for Burnley. He's been superb.
I don't think he'll maintain the goal scoring record, in my opinion.
You know, right?
I don't think he's going to finish as one of the Premier League's top goal scorers. If that's what you're saying.
No.
He's got 4 goals, I think.
Yeah, I did put a fiver on Wilson Isidore finishing top goal scorer before the season started, and he scored 3. So
You just want to give money to Betfred.
yeah,
Just felt
well,
generous.
I always do a silly bet like that at the start of the season.
Just fair enough. But
Worked for
clearly,
Leicester,
you've got
didn't
more.
it?
What?
Worked for Leicester, didn't it?
Exactly. There you go. Exactly.
That's why it's called It Worked for Leicester, though, because it never normally happens. Right. Anyway, that feels like a great time to wrap this up. So anyway, gents, thanks. Next time we speak, we'll finally have Premier League football back, which is exciting. Very exciting. So thanks, Al, for coming on. Thanks, Tony, for coming on. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll catch you for another video next week.